All right, in this video, we're going to take a look at a pattern that's found in a function table, and we're going to have to write a function to go with that pattern. So now we're combining patterns with a little bit of algebra. We worked on functions a little bit in the last unit, so hopefully this won't be a complete new thing for you. Well, I see right here with a function, I know there's going to be two letters. We're going to have a letter, an equal sign, and then something of how we get that letter. So in a function table, we typically, our input is our top row, which means the number we put into our function. And then the number we get out is usually our bottom row. So in this case, our function is going to start with a C. Hold on, I got to switch to my pen. It's going to start with a C because that's our output. So it's going to be C equals. Now we have to figure out what's happening to the number B to get down to C. Functions like we worked on are just patterns. So how do I get from 1 to 8? Well, from 1 to 8, I could just add 7. So that could be our first guess. I could take B plus 7. So I have to test it on this next one. So 1 plus 7 is 8. 2 plus 7 is 9. So that one does not work because it doesn't work in every single row in our function table. So let's try another one. Well, how do I get to 8? From 1 to 8? Well, I tried adding. I couldn't subtract or divide. That wouldn't make sense. So how do I multiply? How do I multiply 1 and get 8? Well, I can multiply by 8. All right, let's test our next one. 2 times 8 is 16. I got that. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 8 is 32. 5 times 8 would be 40. All right, so I figured out my rule. My rule is times 8. But now we have to write it as a function. So I have to look at the two letters that are there. So I have the letter C. So to get the number C, whatever is on the bottom, we would take whatever number B is, and we multiply by 8. So we can write this a couple of ways. We could write it as, okay, we're going to take C equals B times 8. You know, that's one way we could write it. Or if you want to get really good with algebra, we combine those two together. Remember that when we multiply in algebra, when we write that, we can put those two numbers together without a multiplication symbol. So the technical correct term function for this would be C equals 8B. And we always put the number before the other variable. But this tells us that whatever we want to get a number for C, we have to take whatever B is and multiply it times 8. Okay, so we wrote a function to go with that table. Let's look at another one, because sometimes functions have more than one step. And so this is a function. I'm going to kind of cheat with you and tell you that there's going to be 2 steps with this. All right, so we're going to have to figure out, all right, we got to do one thing to it and then another thing to it. So our first goal is to really just try to figure out what's happening. How do we get from 1 to 7, 2 to 9? So I'm going to start to play around with some stuff. So let's try to guess and check a little bit. All right, how do I get from 1 to 7? Well, I could add 6. It doesn't work here. 2 plus 6 is 8. 3 plus 6 is 9. That doesn't work. All right, so I'm going to most likely start with some sort of multiplication or division. Well, if my top number is smaller than my bigger one, it makes sense to me that I'm going to have to use multiplication. So let's see what we can do. I could take 1 times, well, let's take times 2. All right, 1 times 2 is 2. Then I would have to add 5 to get to 7. So maybe our guess could be, okay, times 2 plus 5. Let's try the second one. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 5 would be 9. All right, it works on a second one, but we want to test more than just 2. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 5 is 11. I think we have it. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 5 is 13. All right, so let's fill in this last one. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 5 is 15. Awesome, so we figured out our rule. We have to multiply by 2 and then add 5. But now let's write a function. All right, we're trying to figure out the bottom one. The bottom one is our output. So we're going to start our function with that letter. t equals, all right, we took s times 2 first. So I'm going to write it, the algebraic one, I'm going to put 2s, because that's 2 times s. And then our second step was to add 5. So our entire number sentence here, our function, would look like this. Times 2 plus 5 would be t equals 2s times 2, s times 2, plus 5. There is our function. We also could write it t equals s times 2 plus 5, but we really want to work on putting those numbers, putting those multiplication numbers right next to each other without having to use this symbol. Okay, so you're going to work on a few of these problems. A couple will be one-step problems like this first one we did, and a couple are going to be two-step problems. But on your check-in, I put a little hint by the ones that are two-step problems. All right, good luck.